Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by RFA Middleweight John Poppie. John, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Yep. John, you got a fight coming up August 7th at RFA 28. How's training been going for the fight?
Training's been going really, really well. Things are falling into place. Everything is just clicking right at the right time. Conditioning's great, and feeling really good.
When did RFA sign you? Did they sign you for this fight, or did they sign you a little while back and then they were waiting for a place to book you and then this fight came up, or did they just offer you this fight and then the contract came along with it?
They offered me the fight and the contract came along with it.
This fight on August 7th is going to be for the vacant RFA Middleweight Championship. I'm just curious, since this is your first fight with the promotion, were you surprised when they offered you a title fight right off the bat?
No, I think that I deserve a spotlight fight, and I won't disappoint them, so I think that they made a good choice choosing me for the title fight.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a 3-fight deal with RFA?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now you're fighting Andrew Sanchez. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
It looks like he's a good solid wrestler. Primarily takes his guys down and tries to submit them with punches or rear naked chokes and guillotines. I'm assuming he's training just as hard as I am, and this should be a fun fight. Good matchup for both of us since we both have a wrestling base. Hopefully we'll nullify each other and make it into a stand-up war. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable for the fans as well as the promotion, and people take notice. Both of us will both benefit from this fight. Or a really, really, really high-level, good grappling match between two guys. I know not everybody appreciates that, but it's mixed martial arts. It's not kickboxing. So wherever the fight goes, I've been training hard for it. It'll be exciting either way. I always try to finish, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. I try to finish my opponents as quickly as possible, whatever fashion is available.
Before RFA offered you this fight, did you know of Andrew Sanchez? Did you ever see him fight? Before they offered you this fight, did you know of him?
No, I have not. They offered me the fight, and against Andrew Sanchez. Before that, I've never heard of him. I did some research on him since, and he's been fighting for RFA for quite some time, so I think they needed a good headliner from Missouri, and I know he's a local guy from down there, so it will draw in good crowds, and I think, like I said, the matchup will put on a good show for everyone.
Just curious, do you watch a lot of film on who you're about to fight, or do you just leave that up to your coaches and they break it down for you?
I let my coaches break it down, and I usually watch a little bit, but not a ton. I usually let them do the work on the breakdown of my opponents, just because they're the reason they're my coaches. They have an eye for it. They understand the game better than I do. So they understand, the nuances that I may miss in various aspects of it, like the striking or the grappling. They're like, oh, he does this, this, and this before he executes his takedown or before he throws his right hand. He'll, have his tells. And my coaches are very, very good at that. They've really broken it down really well to even realize, like, the exact tells he uses for his takedowns and stuff like that. So... and what his the strikes he likes to use on the feet and how he sets his stuff up. So I usually leave it to them. They do a really good job, but I will watch a little bit just to see what I'm up against.
This is probably a tough question to answer because I'm asking you to get in the mind of your opponent, but what do you think his camp is telling him to do against you in this fight? Because obviously they're breaking down your film, they're watching your past fights, they're coming up with a game plan for August 7th, so I'm just curious, what do you think his camp is telling him to do against you in this fight?
Probably take me into rounds 3, 4, and 5 and wear me out, but I know the film available that's online is not a ton, and I know where I was then and where I am now, so that I'm a different fighter. I've developed and evolved and sharpened my skills and my conditioning, so he is obviously going to train for what he knows, and they're going to expect him to finish with what he does best, which would be wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Your last fight was a 5-round fight. This fight is a 5-round fight. I'm just curious because you hadn't gone the distance in any of your fights since turning pro, and in the first time you go the distance, you went 5 rounds. So I'm just curious, that last fight that you had against Rakeem Cleveland, that was a 5-round fight. What was that experience like going the distance for the first time?
I felt really, 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 really good between each round. I felt recovered after the rest period, after the break between each round. I felt fresh. So I think the preparation I've been doing, I'm just in, as far as the conditioning end goes, I've been increasing it a little bit, but still doing the same stuff because it's continually working.
Now, I've seen different reports. Some databases say you are the Mcc Middleweight Champion. That last fight against Rakeem Cleveland was a title fight, and you won that fight, and you became champion. And I've seen some other databases say that you're not the champion because you failed to make weight. So I'm just curious, clear it up for us. Are you the Mcc Middleweight Champion?
Nope, I did come in overweight,
right,
so
okay.
I am not the Mcc Middleweight Champ. It was my first time down to 185, and I botched the weight cut and came in heavy, forfeited part of my purse, but Rakeem Cleveland was a gentleman enough to actually fight me and still fight me, so I did forfeit that title, but I still have the victory under my belt. I have my diet squared away much better this time, and I'm actually well ahead of schedule with my diet, so this weight cut, the weight after practice, I'm coming in around 193 as opposed to 205 2 weeks out, so it's much easier. I started at a much lower weight. I feel so much better, but yeah, it was my first time down to 185, and I did it by myself too without the help of a nutritionist, so.
When RFA offered you this fight, considering that last time you didn't make weight, did they express any concerns about you not making weight, or are they trusting you that you'll be able to do it?
They're confident I'll make it, and like I said, I'm about 2 weeks out, give or take a little bit. I don't know the exact date. Yeah, about 2 weeks out from weigh-ins, and like I said, I'm waking up 11 pounds over 185, and I'm eating 5 or 6 meals a day, training hard, drinking, just eating really clean, really healthy, and weight still coming off, so I'm not too worried about it.
I promise this will be the last question about weight, but I'm just curious. The last time you fought, you weighed in at 192 for a 185 title fight. You weighed in at 192, but I'm curious, we've seen in the past guys get lower than what they actually weighed in at. So were you able to get lower than 192, and when you knew that you weren't going to be able to make the weight, you just rehydrated and weighed in at 192, or was 192 the lowest you got?
Nope, that was the lowest I could get. Okay. I drove down to Des Moines, and I had plastics on and all that fun shit that we do, and sweats, and I actually stopped sweating pretty early in the day. Like, my body wasn't producing anything. I think I just screwed it up. So I also started at much higher weight than I did this time. This time I started at 205. Last time I started around 230, so...
Like you mentioned earlier, Andrew Sanchez is the hometown guy. You're going into his backyard for this fight on August 7th. You're going into enemy territory, but you're also going into familiar territory. Your last 2 fights have both been in your opponent's backyard. So I'm just curious, do you like playing that villain role? Do you like going into someone else's hometown and beating them and silencing that crowd? Do you like playing that villain role?
It doesn't bother me whether I fight at home or whether I fight away. I kind of like fighting out of town because you're usually the heel. And it's fun to prove everyone wrong. They expect their hometown guy to win, which is great. They're supporting him, but at the same time, it's fun to win over the crowd after you beat their guy, and are gentlemen about it when you beat him. You're not, this arrogant don't like it because after the fight, everyone's your friend after they're booing you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Kind of a Rocky IV effect. At the beginning, they're booing you, but then you put on a good performance, and then they cheer for you.
Nope.
What do you think a win on August 7th does for you? Because we've seen time and time again someone go into RFA, win the title, and then make the jump to the UFC. But recently, we've seen it's not been that easy for some fighters to make that jump. We've seen guys like Luke Sanders and Alexandra Pantoja and Benjamin Smith and some of these other guys have to defend the RFA belt. So what do you see happening after this fight? Do you see yourself winning this fight and then making that jump to the UFC and getting that call, or do you think that you might have to fight one more time? If you win this belt, you might have to defend that belt one more time and then get that call. What do you anticipate happening? What do you see happening? Do you see the UFC giving you that opportunity if you're able to get past Andrew Sanchez and become champion? Do you think you'll get that call?
Yeah, I do, actually. I think Dana White, Joe Sullivan, Sean Shelby will be calling sooner than later.
There's a lot of people who remember you from that brief stint you had on The Ultimate Fighter, but there's still a lot of people who don't watch that show for whatever reason. There's a lot of fans who are lost
really,
interest.
really shitty. It's not that great to watch. I just watch the fights online afterwards.
There's a lot of people who remember that, and then there's a lot of people who, when they see you fight on Access TV on August 7th, you'll be exposed to them for the first time. So I'm just curious, what are you looking to prove, and what are you looking to showcase on the 7th?
My striking that I've been working on for quite some time, and that I'm not a boring fighter, despite what people think or say, that I've grown since The Ultimate Fighter.
Now, John, we'll end on this segment. It's a little segment I like to call Really Random. That's where I ask you a random question and you give me the real answer. Some of these questions are custom made just for you, and some of these questions are just random ones I ask everyone. So here we go. First question, superpower you'd love to have?
A healing ability like Wolverine.
Favorite movie?
I really like Alice in Wonderland. I really enjoy the movie Good Will Hunting.
Movie you've seen the most times?
Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal Lecter. Or Hannibal.
Your hair is getting very long. I'm just curious, what's the plan with your hair? Are you trying to do a Clay Guida where you grow it shoulder length, or is this as long as it's going to get? What's the plan with the hair?
I'm just letting it grow, and when I feel like cutting it, I'll cut it, but it works.
For the fight on August 7th, will it be tied back? Will it be in cornrows? Will it be like Clay Guida, just out in the open? What's the plan with the hair for the fight?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Oh. Okay. Are you still doing landscaping?
No, I'm not.
Since you're not doing that anymore, are you a full-time fighter?
Right now, I wish I was full-time. That'd be awesome. But right now, I paint houses, and I actually I'm the assistant manager at a supplement store here in Madison that's going to be open because they had to build out the suite that it's going to be in. They had to pour a floor in it and, drywall and all that fun stuff. So I'm just waiting on that happening. So I paint in the interim.
A little while back, there was a GoFundMe page for you. You were trying to make a trip out to Jackson's. I'm just curious, was that a successful campaign, and did you ever make it out to Jackson's?
No, that wasn't a successful campaign. I never did make it out there.
Are you still hoping to make it out there in the future?
Not in the immediate future, but eventually it'd be fun to go out there for a week or two to check it out.
What's your pet peeve?
Liars.
Time period you'd like to go back and visit, and why?
Ooh, the Renaissance would be fun, just because there's a lot of creativity.
John, you have 2 tattoos that I'm very interested in learning what they say. The first one is on your right arm, and then the second one is on your left forearm. What do those 2 tattoos say?
Tattoo on my left forearm is Psalm 103. The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. And the one on my right arm is Psalm 144:1. Praise be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands and my fingers for war. That's a rough abbreviation of the one on my right.
Person you look up to the most?
Henry Rollins, because he just kept saying yes and worked his ass off, and now he is where he is because of that.
What do you worry about? What's something that keeps you up at night?
That's a long list, so I know. Right now, it's making sure everything falls in line. Usually, as far as fights go, is the weight on and my training right. Just normal stressful things.
On your Ultimate Fighter application, the UFC asked you who you would like to fight, and I think they gave you 3 or 4 lines, but on all of those lines you wrote Chael Sonnen. I'm just curious, why did you write his name down?
Oh, I like the guy. I think he's a lot of talk, but he's an entertainer. He also, he trains hard. I just enjoy him as a fighter.
Just curious, how much do you think the UFC looks at that fight you had on the Tough House when, breaking you down and deciding if they want to sign you? Do you think that that's still something that they look at, or do you think you've done enough to erase that memory?
Currently, they probably do. They're going to, but hopefully after this one, they will realize that people do develop new skills and techniques and train hard and evolve as fighters, so they won't have to dwell on that.
Mm-hmm. Best advice you were ever given through fighting, and best advice you were ever given through life, and who gave it to you?
Nick Thompson for fighting. Have fun, enjoy it, and then life. Henry Rollins, he has this bit that he talks about. Just keep going and say yes to opportunities.
What's the number one thing on your bucket list?
Oh, fuck. That kind of switches from day to day, so no number one thing.
What's it like today?
Well, I'd like to make a way. No, a couple things that are on there is I'd like to climb Mount Everest. Would be cool. Possibly own my own restaurant, stuff like that.
What's your hidden talent?
Hidden talent. One sec. Hidden talent. I can cook really well, and apparently I'm funny.
Okay. Who were you talking to?
My roommate.
Oh, okay. Your hidden talent is so hidden, you can't even see it.
Yeah.
Favorite TV show, whether it's currently on the air or off the air?
MASH. There. That will take the cake forever and ever.
Favorite song?
Damn, that's a hard one. I'll just give you one of my favorites, Red Hot Moon by Rancid. Or Train Invading by The Clash. Or White Riot by The Clash.
Last question. If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change and why?
Politically correctness. I'd get rid of that. People are too sensitive.
John, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, I'd like to thank SUPS and Bad Apple Armor, Torque, Fight Gear, Bulge Clothing, Perfecting Athletes, and they'll RFA and Paulina from Perfecting Athletes, and Rachel Stangler for helping get this fight. Otherwise, the fans should look forward to an exciting fight and a finish on either end, and the belt coming back to Wisconsin. All sorts of ridiculous things.
John, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck August 7th at RFA 28 against Andrew Sanchez.